My name is Amber. I'm standing on the balcony of my new lakeside house in Duluth, watching the sunrise. The gentle breeze caresses my short hair that has started to grow back after treatment. It's hard to believe how far I've come from the nightmare I once endured. Not long ago, I was lying in a hospital bed, facing a life-threatening illness alone. The doctor told me I had a pancreatic tumor. I was terrified not of the illness itself, but of going through it without support. I texted my husband, Leo, but he didn't reply. No calls, no messages. He was completely absent during my most vulnerable time. Then one Thursday afternoon, he showed up at my hospital room. With cold eyes and hands in his pockets, he placed a folder on the bedside table and said he'd filed for divorce. He claimed the house and the car should be in his name, as if I was a burden with no remaining value. It was a moment when my heart shattered into a million pieces. But instead of crying, a cold determination welled up inside me. I decided right then that he would pay for his cruelty. I called my right-hand man at the company, Max. He was always loyal and knew the true extent of my power in the company. I asked for his help, and he was ready, saying he'd been waiting for my call. Let me rewind a bit. I grew up in a middle-class family in Seattle. My parents, Tom and Lily, were hard, working, and kind people. They instilled in me the values of hard work and independence. I graduated from a top business school and became the CEO of a prosperous medical equipment distribution company, bringing in large revenues every year. On the surface, I was a housewife living in the suburbs of Chicago with Leo. But behind that facade, I was a powerful businesswoman, and Leo had no idea. We met at a business networking event when I was in my early 30s. Leo was charming and seemed attentive. We dated for about a year, and then got married. At first, I thought I'd found my soulmate, but as time went on, his true colors began to show. He made excuses not to change jobs, even though his salary could hardly cover our basic expenses. When I offered suggestions, he brushed them off, saying I was trying to control him. One time, there was an opening in my company's administrative department, a position with a much higher salary. I even spoke to the HR manager to reserve the job for him. But he refused, scolding me for trying to meddle in his affairs. I tried to endure his stubbornness, believing that as long as I made enough money, our life would be okay. Every month, I transferred a substantial amount of money to his account as living expenses. But he spent it on useless things like high-end electronics and expensive dinners. He never cared about my long days at work or my stressful business trips. In his eyes, I was just a dependent wife enjoying the fruits of his labor. My mother once came to help clean the house while I was in important online meetings. When Leo got home, he saw my mother and said rudely that he didn't want outsiders in the house. I was furious and defended my mother, but he just shrugged it off. That was when I first felt a crack in our marriage that couldn't be fixed. After that, our relationship became colder. He would get angry over the smallest things, like a book not being placed in the right spot. I started to feel like a servant in my own home. When I fell ill, it was the final straw. Alone in the hospital, fighting for my life, Leo was thinking only of himself and filing for divorce. 3 days later, Max brought me a leather briefcase with all the tools I needed for my plan. I terminated the supply agreement between my company and Medlogix, where Leo worked in logistics. This contract accounted for over 60% of Medlogix's revenue in the last quarter. The CEO of Medlogix called me, asking for the reason. I calmly told him that one employee, Leo Thompson, had shown inappropriate behavior and misused company assets. That evening, Leo came home pale and said he'd been laid off. I revealed my identity as the CEO of StarMed, the company he thought he'd impressed so much. I also showed him the divorce papers and informed him that he had 30 days to move out of the house, which was actually bought by me. He was in shock, but I felt a sense of clarity. Not long after, Leo called me in the middle of the night, crying and begging for a second chance. He said he'd lost everything, his job, his house was about to be foreclosed, and no one would hire him. But then I mentioned the name of his young intern girlfriend, Ava. The CEO of Medlogix had told me about their relationship. Leo stammered, trying to explain, but I hung up. My lawyer, Grace, showed me evidence of their affair, flirtatious messages, and hotel selfies. I demanded $85,000 in emotional damages. Leo's attempts to win me back only proved that he didn't love me. He just couldn't live without my support. Now, Leo's reputation is in ruins. He can't find a job and is struggling to pay off his debts. As for Ava, her family settled part of the damages privately and took her back to their ranch. I've recovered from my illness, and my company welcomed me back with open arms. I've turned down several date invitations because I need time to heal and enjoy my found freedom. I'm content living in my small lakeside house where I can focus on myself. I've learned that true happiness comes from self-respect and the courage to stand up for myself. I'm the one writing the final chapter of my story.